From a management perspective, user research can be viewed as just another set of tasks. Even an organization that values user experience may decide not to hire a dedicated user researcher, perhaps due to limits in budget or headcount. Assuming they don't eliminate user research entirely, they may choose to distribute user research duties to other disciplines, creating hybrid roles. For instance, designers or project managers are sometimes asked to do user research in addition to their other duties. Now, I admit I am biased, but I believe that it is a mistake to not have dedicated user researchers. Sometimes this can't be helped due to resource constraints or organizational limitations. And in a few cases, hybrid roles might work reasonably well, but that requires exceptional talent and strong support from management. But whenever possible, there are good reasons why a trained user researcher should be the one to perform user research tasks. The first reason is related to job priorities. When the work piles up and deadlines loom, people focus on their primary work responsibilities. If user research is a side responsibility, there is a good chance it will remain on the side, never quite getting priority. And when non-researchers begin attempting to conduct user research, they likely discover that it's not a small effort that can be easily fit into the gaps around their other work. It can be time-consuming and complicated, requiring continuous coordination and attention. Upon realizing that user research can't be successfully completed in the fragments of spare time remaining in their schedules, it gets set aside. The second broad issue with hybridized research roles is the inherent conflict of interest. If someone's main job involves defining, designing, or building features, then they're directly invested in the design. It makes sense to them because it came out of their head. Even if a designer is open to feedback, having deep involvement with a particular design can make it more difficult to recognize alternate interpretations of that design. In a research context, this attachment to a design can impact their ability to act as an impartial observer. If they see a user using a feature differently than they envisioned, their first reaction may be, "You're doing it wrong," rather than focusing on what can be learned from the user's assumptions. The third reason for using a user researcher is the special training they are likely to have. When user research is done correctly, it can look simple and natural, but like so many other jobs, this apparent ease is the mark of a professional. Expert practitioners will have a deep bag of tricks developed over the years. User research is no different. There are numerous pitfalls before, during, and after a study that can erode or even destroy the validity of the research. Experience with clinical trials and data analysis is important here. The last point is very important and deserves to be expanded upon. All research, including user research, needs to be properly executed in order to deliver benefits. Bad research will deliver bad data, which is arguably worse than no data. Once you fill a blank with data, it's easy for others to assume that it is valid and run with it. A lack of data isn't inherently misleading, whereas bad data can linger on and poison countless decisions. Data is like food. Quality matters more than quantity. I'd rather have a single well-cooked chicken nugget than an entire buffet of questionable seafood. And in that way, a little good research is far better than a truckload of bad research. Being properly trained on conducting quality research is critical for delivering reliable data, just as being properly trained in the kitchen is critical for delivering food that is safe to eat. Now, I think I've abused the food metaphor quite enough. But I do have one last argument for dedicated researchers. Institutional knowledge. Now, once you have conducted enough research and a body of information has accrued, it's possible for meta-discoveries to emerge. Dots can connect between studies, revealing patterns that were not obvious from any single report. But if there are no dedicated user researchers, it is unlikely that anyone will develop a big picture understanding. Without dedicated user researchers, there probably will not be any consistent research standards, or an archival process, or the cross-communication of findings. The studies will remain one-off, ad hoc ordeals that cannot be or will not accumulate into a lasting value for the organization. Overall, there are many arguments for utilizing a trained, dedicated user researcher instead of treating it like a side task that can be carved up and distributed to other non researchers.